Greetings, Talvan. Have I got a special episode for you today? We're going to be reviewing the International Teams Tournament, which is now the largest teams event in the world, and it's held in Coventry. So it says here, total teams registered was 141. It ended up being 139 teams, consisting of 5 players. Now, teams events have become super popular, and rightfully so. It's a fantastic way to, I suppose, celebrate the expansion of the community, but it just adds a complete different layer to playing the game that we all love. Now, basic premises of teams is that you have 5 players, you can't duplicate factions, or team events can be 8 players, 5 players, sometimes 4, but generically it tends to be 5 or 8. So 5 players in this event, all with different factions, and you have a pairing system where you will pair off and have the choice to pair against different armies, depending on your strategies and your matrices, and then you basically fight it out for the overall team to score more points than the other, and which will either equal a win, draw, or loss. So it's not just about your individual performance. And I think this is something that has really kind of captivated a lot of players because, one, a lot of players are practicing for the WTC, and 2, it's just a fun way of playing. So I've been part of the Mind Goblins team now for a couple of years, and I went as part of Mind Goblins, and we had, I think, 4 teams representing Mind Goblins, and one of our teams ended up making to the finals and ended up taking home the event. So super proud of the Gobbos. Well done, boys. We absolutely smashed it. So let's have a look a little bit into the list that I took and the team that I was part of. So we were Mind Goblins' best team, and we had a team composition of Astra Militarum, Necrons, so it was Bridgehead, Astra Militarum, we had Necrons, Star Shatter, we had Chaos Space Marines, I believe it was Renegade Raiders, yes it was, and then we had Adeptus Custodes, which was running the Solar Spearhead, and then we had me with Tau Empire. Now, before I go on to my list, I want to just talk a little bit about the meta and where you are probably sitting at the moment, and maybe undecided about, well, which detachment is best to tackle what is currently being presented to us. Tau, since release, have been a very balanced faction. We have plenty of scoring units. We're cheap enough to be able to play the resource trading game, and we also have quite an output that we can kind of like throw down at any given moment. Yes, we are a monophase faction, but there's been a lot of like list creations, especially with the new Grotmus attachment, the auxiliary CAD, that can actually help us out and participate in the combat phase. So I was expecting a lot of Tau players to jump on the auxiliary cadre, which I don't think was a bad thing, and I think it offers a brand new way of playing. But for me, I analyse the meta in a way that I look at trends, I look at patterns, and I also look at what the top players are going to be bringing, and I look for efficiencies and things that maybe people don't expect to face. So we have such depth within our codex that every single detachment, whether that be Kion, Mont'ka, Retaliation, Kroot Hunting Pack, or now the Auxiliary CAD, can actually create a very well-rounded list with a specific purpose, especially for teams. So one thing to bear in mind is that there's 2 parts to this. Number 1 is that this is not a singles list. I'm not just designing a list to smash the meta and do well from an individual performance. I'm looking at building a list that will be an attacker, so that can go into things that I can just straight up win a game or push the differential to be in my favour. Historically, Tau have been in what we call a defender role, so you put down first and you're just going on a light board, you are shooting, you're going to go on open firing lanes and you're just going to blast the enemy off the board. That is not really a thing where I think Tau are strongest at this stage, because there's a lot of armies out there like Guard or various Chaos Space Marine builds or Tyrannid builds that can just do that role a little bit better. So I think we need to really lean in in a teams format, and obviously as a singles, is that because we're so cheap and efficient at trading, and by trading it's like I present you a small unit to go and deny you primary, you have to send something out that's more points than what unit I presented you, and I'm already trading up. So we have plenty of units like Kroot Hounds, Kroots, whatever it may be, to really utilize this trading war. And what you're trying to achieve here is you're trying to force the enemy to send more points out than you, so that you're always going to be winning that war, the attrition war, should I say. So I really wanted to build a list around that, because at any given moment, if I'm told to hold with my score, aka just get, solid points, get my primary, deny my opponent primary, and just keep the score steady, I can do that role for the team. And then I also wanted to play more of an attacker role, which means that I can just get my optimal pairing and go in for those big wins. And remember, teams tournaments uses the WT scoring, so effectively, the more points you win by, the more the differential goes in your favour. So I'll probably explain that really badly, but a normal game is at 100 points. And then the WTC scoring system is on like a sliding scale of like 5 points. For every 5 points you win by, it then goes like 11-9. So it's at 20 points. And if, for example, both players had 85-85, it would be a 10-10 draw. If it was like 89-85, it's still a 10-10 draw because it's within that 5 points. But if you got, for example, 86 and they got 80, it would be an 11-9 to you. So the more you push the differential, the more points you get. So I wanted to be able to have a list that could not only deny my opponent the primary points, but I wanted to be aggressive and be able to push that differential into, say, 20 point plus difference, or 25 or 30. So locking the opponent out from playing the game. So that's why I went with Mont'ka. I have not run a Mont'ka list since, well, I've not run a Mont'ka list in any of the tournaments I've been to, because I felt that the turns 1 to 3, the game is all around like staging and scoring some points, and then it's the go turn in turns of 3, 4, and 5. But the evolution of 40k that we know now, they've kind of dulled down the end game scoring a little bit, because before you could do secret missions and end game scoring. And a lot of armies that are now coming out are hyper aggressive, especially the Grotmus detachments. New codexes coming out, so there's so much to learn and factor in terms of your knowledge of other factions, the game, that it's a little bit much. You might find yourself in a position where you're like, oh my god, there's so much to learn now, I don't know where to start. I don't know how to combat these particular builds that are coming out because I've not had time to practice them, I've not faced them before, and I just end up getting locked out of the game. So that is a real big risk that I identified, that there's so much to learn, so much to now prep for, that actually all that knowledge that I had is actually not worthless, but it's diminished in value because there's too much now that I need to factor in. So what I wanted to do is have a very simple list that played the game that I wanted to play, score how I want it to play, and be able to pressure the opponent to not be able to use those new tools or stratagems or detachment rules. I wanted just to get the game done and be aggressive and make my opponent respect my speed, my reach, and my output. And the other caveat to this is, with Mont'ka having lethals, it helps solve a certain problem. And the problem that we tend to face in list building is that you can tech to, say, clear Horde, but then have you put enough pieces in your list to tech for those skew lists that are all like tanks, tanks, and tanks. Whereas Mont'ka, you're able to tech for Horde, but also at the same time it techs for vehicle spam or monster mash, because lethals will help you punch up into those unoptimal targets if you didn't have lethals. So that was my reasoning behind taking Mont'ka, and I've got to tell you, this team's tournament, or this performance, was the best that I've done to date in terms of the scoring average per game, and also how I've provided points back for the team. So I was super happy the fact that my theory and my list ended up performing above what I expected. So, enough rambling, let's show you the list. So, it's called the Mont'ka final form because, as you can appreciate, I went through loads of iterations of the list. And we've been working on the Mont'ka list for the last couple of months in our Tau Discord behind the Chassel tier. And a couple of our members have been taking it to big events, and especially like the LVO that's just gone. And it's perfect right now. I can tell you now, if you're not on the Mont'ka train, get on it. So, what did I end up going for? So, my characters consisted of 2 Enforcer Commanders, both with enhancements. I took the Exemplar of the Mont'ka, and I'll go into that in a little bit. I took the Strategic Conqueror, which again, I'll go through when I go through the rest of the list. And my Enforcers were equipped with all missiles, and then a Marker Drone Shield Drone. Then I've got a Kroot War Shaper, which is integral to the list. And I've given him the enhancement of the Strike Swiftly. Strike Swiftly allows you to pick 2 units before the Scout's phase commences, and you bestow Scout Move 6 on 2 units of your choice. The Exemplar of Mont'ka allows me to do the Assault and Lethals on turn 4, rather than it expiring on turn 3, just for that unit, of course. And the Strategic Conqueror allows me to pick an objective at the beginning of the game, and I can I can pick an objective in No Man's Land, and anything that I put on there counts as an extra OC, which is very good for holding your expansion, or more importantly, very good for denying your opponent's expansion objective. Now, looking at the battle line units, breach teams are amazing. Just genuinely, infantry with this output and the speed of Mont'ka plus the lethals is a winning combination. So I've taken 30 breaches, armed with a Guardian Drone Gun Drone, because the -1 to win in shooting is really good, and the Gun Drone is just an extra bit of shots, right? Notice that I've not gone Cadres. Cadre Fireblades are very good, but 2 Cadres is 100 points, which to me could be another unit of breaches. And I've taken 3 dedicated transports. And there's a reason for taking the 3 Devilfish. The reason is that in my practice games with Mont'ka, 2 breach teams has been absolutely fine. But what I've always wanted is I wanted a 3rd unit to be able to have in reserve ready for a rapid ingress play. Because there's lots of things that you can do within the Mont'ka detachment that can really make this unit that's coming in from reserve an absolute threat that your opponent needs to respect. So imagine you have got a firing lane that's kind of open, or you've already presented them things to deal with on said open flank, and then you can just rapid ingress, say, breach a Devilfish and go, you have to deal with this now, but you've only lined up to deal with, say, some crisis suits or a broadside team, or another one of your Devilfish. And then in your following turn, you could spend the stratagem to auto-advance 6, and then yeet this unit 18 inches, get out 3, and then you've obviously got a range of 10 for your guns. So that is effectively 31 inches of threat range that you can just full send. And rapid ingress is a very good stratagem that a lot of players will utilize for this very reason, to be able to overload a flank, cripple a flank, or protect a flank that's about to fold. So this addition of a 3rd breach team is integral to the overall game plan. You'll notice that I've put smart missile systems on Devilfish and on a few other things that I've got in my list, and I'll get to the reason why. So my broadside teams are very, very good to protect firing lanes, and they've got very good output, especially in Mont'ka with the lethals and the ability to even push their AP up, because you have a stratagem where you can pick 2 units of yours, and both of these units will get an additional AP if they're targeting the same unit. So I've gone with 2 units of 2 broadsides. They're armed with the heavy rails, they've got the missile drones, and they've got there's some weapon support systems, so ignoring hit modifiers, and then they've got the smart missile systems. So it'll be 8, 7, 1, 2, but potentially 8, 7, 2, 2 with the missile drones if you did the extra AP. And then they've got a collective 8 SMS shots per unit, ignoring modifiers, so you can just use their indirect to take out things like mortar teams, trading pieces, demonettes, and whatever your opponent is going to be kind of like holding back on the home field or using to kind of hide behind terrain to then threaten you next turn. Just being able to do plink fire damage on trading resources I found is super valuable. And the reason I teched for all the SMS on everything, including a Sky Ray that I've got on the list, and the broadsides and the Delfishes, is because statistically, when I ran the numbers and rolled the dice, I can pick up a mortar team from Imperial Guard, which you're seeing a lot of, especially the Bridgehead, and I wanted to make sure that at least I could trade with the indirect war and be able to put pressure on scoring pieces. And again, remember, in teams, it's massive. So if they've got like one dude behind a wall and I get no prisoners, well, at least I can kill that one dude behind a wall to rack up extra points. So there was a very tactical decision within my list to take SMS rather than taking the extra damage in the form of Seeker missiles. So then I've gone with 2 Fire Knife Crisis Battlesuit teams. Now, they are armed all with missiles, both units. And I found that since AOC, so Armor of Contempt, has been nerfed to a activation, that being able to, one, not really care about that after that first defensive activation that they do, but two, being able to then have another unit go, well, I'm now AP1. And then with Mont'ka having that stratagem to give you an extra AP means that you can suddenly throw down, with the Enforcer commander in this unit, 20 Strength 7 AP2 2 damage shots at 30-inch range. So the range game is really important because you can outrange things that have like a 24-inch Overwatch threat, or you can just cut the angles very tightly, delete something, and keep them safe from any incoming fire. Which leads me on to the next point of why not take Cold Stars. Well, I took Enforcers because the Mont'ka Assault ability for the first 3 turns, and obviously in the 4th turn for my example of Mont'ka, helps me get around the slower movement of the Enforcer. But then also we have Armor of Contempt equivalent when your Enforcer is leading a Crisis team. So -1 incoming AP, and because other armies don't have access to a lot of Ignore's cover like we do, you can position your Fire Knife teams in a way that they get cover save and Armor of Contempt, so -1 on the incoming AP. So then if it's AP2, effectively you could make it AP0, which then allows your Crisis teams to just have more defensive ability and they survive longer. And if they're AP3, then it puts you on a 4-up if they don't ignore cover, which is the equivalent of having your Sunforge with a 4+ invulnerable save. So I found that this combo worked perfectly. And then we go into a little bit of the trading kind of pieces here. So a Kroot Carnivore squad, just 1 unit of 10 is perfect because you always want to have a sticky unit in your list building stage, because having your home field be sticky and not have to kind of keep something back is crucial. And then in a lot of deployments like UKTC, search and destroy missions, I believe like Tipping Point in GW layout like 6 and 1, you can sticky multiple objective with just 1 unit of Kroot. So I find that a single Kroot Carnivore squad is an auto take in every list. Then I've got 2 units of Kroot Hounds. Now, I'll go through the rest of the list and then I'll talk about the Kroot Hounds separately because they're a very important tech piece. A Pathfinder team with the recon drone and 2 gun drones, simply because infiltrate and scout is super important. You can infiltrate and then scout move 7, so you can kind of block enemy infiltration units, and then you can also go 7 inches back to safety should you go second. I've got a Sky Ray because the Sky Ray is an extra form of anti-tank, and it also brings Seeker missiles. So my thought process was, yes, I could have an Iron Hammerhead, which is good into Horde and it's flat 3 damage, but with my broadsides taking the smart missile systems, I wanted a little bit of extra punch, and the way I thought about compensating for taking SMS on my broadsides is by bringing in Skyray. And I'll be honest, it performed. A free reroll to hit, and then it's twin linked for its Seeker missile rack. At strength 14, AP3, D6+1, it's solid. And you could even make it AP4 if you use the stratagem for an extra AP. So I found that Skyray was very integral, and it did pull its weight. And then you've got your 3 stealth suits with the homing beacon, marker drone, shield drone for guiding purposes, and you've got Pathfinder to double guide, and then the Skyrie can also guide later on if it's already removed, like the anti-tank side of things. Kroot Hounds. So Kroot Hounds are OC0, but not necessarily. The Strategic Conqueror, if you imagine you've picked their expansion objective to be the Strat Conqueror, you need to ensure that your Enforcer stays alive or is on the battlefield, because it only applies while he's on the battlefield, aka alive or there. And anything that you put on there counts as an extra OC. So Kroot Hounds OC0, well, on this objective are OC1. They also have an ability where if they're within 12 inches of a Kroot character, they gain an additional OC as well. So technically, if you had your Kroot War Shaper and the Strat Conqueror in place on their expansion objective, you could suddenly be putting 5 Hounds, which are 40 points, that suddenly go from OC0 to OC10. And that's irrespective of being battle shocked or not. And on the flip side, if you are doing it on your own expansion and you were going in, say, Tyranids that did Shadow of the Warp and you battle shocked everything, well, it wouldn't matter if you've chosen your expansion objective to be the Strat Conqueror, so that, yes, you're OC0 because you battle shocked, but you gain OC. So the multipliers are after the fact. So you're always going to be +1 OC or +2 if it's a Kroot if it's a Kroot Hound unit and the Shaper's within 12 and you're on that Strat Conqueror objective. So the reason the Hounds are really integral is because I don't always want to be using my breaches to go out and deny primary and then not do the damage into targets that I want them to. But sending out 5 Hounds and going, right, well, that's OC5/10 for a 40-point unit is cash money. And then the other tech with the Kroot War Shaper, and this is a very clever tech that we've been talking about and we come up with in our Discord, is that the Kroot War Shaper has the ability to, one, can make something else, can make another Kroot unit unbattle shocked. So let me just load up his datasheet while my GW app loads up. So War Shaper. So his abilities are a War Leader, once per battle round, 1 unit from your army with this ability can use it when it's targeted with a stratagem if it does reduce the CP cost of that stratagem by 1. I'll get onto that in a second because it's massively important for Mont'ka. And then Root of Honor, once per battle at the start of any phase, you can select 1 friendly Kroot unit that is battle shocked and within 12 of this model, that unit is no longer battle shocked. So Hounds being leadership 8, if, for example, they fail the battle shock, you could suddenly just go, well, you're within 12 of me, start of any phase, you're unbattle shocked, so go and do me an action. And that's the key thing as well. Hounds are OC0, so they can't do actions, but with the fact that you can give them OC, means that they can suddenly do actions for you at a super cheap points cost of 40 points for 5. So if you put 5 Hounds on the Strat Conqueror objective, they've got OC, so they could cleanse, or whatever you need to do. If they're within 12 of the Kroot character and out in the open, they're OC1, so they could do Establish Locus in the centre of the board, they could cleanse an objective in the centre of the board, they can do lots of things. They could do Recovering Assets, because you're able to give them OC, which allows you to do actions. So, War Leader ability. Once per battle round, once you target 1 unit from your army that with this ability can use it when it's targeted with a stratagem. So, Mont'ka. Think about this. Let me just load it up. The stratagem is Focus Fire. Start of your shooting phase, 2 Tau Empire units from your army that have not been selected to shoot this phase, and 1 enemy unit. Until the end of the phase, each time a model in that unit, either of those units, makes an attack, it can only target that enemy target, and only if it is an eligible target for that attack. And when resolving that attack, improve the armor penetration characters by 1. So in short, what you can do is you imagine you send a breacher team out, turn 1, and it's going to kill 5 scouts. So you go, okay, well, I'm going to pick the breacher team, and I'm going to pick the War Shaper. So that because I've selected the War Shaper, he can use his free ability. So you could do the extra AP strat for 0 CP on the breacher team. Therefore not having to send out 2 units to kind of deal with that, to then lose 2 of your resources just to get the extra AP. You could do it with the Devilfish, yeah, but it's not about that. It's about the fact that I can do it for free, allowing me to start to bank up on some of the CP that is going to be needed for those stratagems going forward. Speaking of stratagems, so think about the Mont'ka stratagem suite. It's probably one of the most powerful stratagem suites available in the game. And, you know, you've got 1 CP. You can just go pinpoint counteroffensive. Have you killed a unit that's not a Kroot unit? Right. Full rerolls to hit against you for the rest of the game. So obviously, fire knives have full rerolls to hit when targeting something that's at full starting strength. But your second unit, obviously, they're not going to be at full starting strength, but they're only going to be rerolling 1s because that's part of the ability. And the fire knives ignore hit modifiers. So suddenly, if they happen to be a unit that has had pinpoint counteroffensive on them, then they're going to be full reroll hits regardless. You want to use your Devilfish and your Breaches out early anyway to go block, shoot, take out their scoring pieces, deny them primary, and you've got waves and waves of doing this stratagem. You can do it in any phase. So shooting phase, you can do it in the combat phase, whatever you want to target to go, everything else is just going to ruin you, then it's beautiful. And especially for those units that come out like a Vindicator and want to kill a Devilfish, your broadsides can then suddenly be full rerolls to hit against them. And we all know the pain of rolling those 2s. You reroll the 1s from stealth and reroll 1s to wound, but to hit, full rerolls if you've procced that stratagem on them. The aggressive ability I've already talked about, which is fantastic. The ability to auto-advance 6 can just get you places that you need, especially with the fact that the Devilfishes are quite weirdly shaped. And pivoting, yes, it's only 1 pivot for 2 inches, but that does matter. And being able just to rely on an auto-advance can get you to where you need to be to do the damage that you need to do. Focus Fire, I've already mentioned. The extra AP, being able to utilize the War Shaper's ability to do it for free. And then in the later stage of the game, you know, especially turns 2 to 3, because you have to prioritize doing this because you cannot use a stratagem from turn 4 and turn 5. Regardless of the example of Monk card, this stratagem says you cannot use this stratagem during the 4th or 5th battle round, regardless of Monk card or not. So you've done it for free first turn, and then when you send your 2 crisis teams out to go and kill a big target, they're going to be, both of those going to be 20 shots with the Enforcers, Strength 7, AP 2, 2 damage if the target's the same thing. So you can just look at something and go, I want that dead. And then the Combat Debarkation is, again, another really powerful stratagem, especially with Breaches. Breaches have a normal rule where if the enemy is on an objective, you can reroll wounds against them. But a lot of clever players will not position themselves on objectives unless they have to. So Combat Debarkation allows you just to reroll the wounds when you're coming out of transport. So if an opponent has deployed something off an objective and you go in first turn, you go, well, I'm doing the free extra AP for free, I've got 1 CP, and I'll also do the reroll wounds regardless if you've been on objective or not. That combo wouldn't be possible if you had to spend the CP on the extra AP, and then you have to choose which one's more important. But the War Shaper allows you to do both of these. Pulse Onslaught, it's a 2 CP stratagem. Didn't really come up, but it's a good tool to have. 1 Tau Empire infantry unit, excluding Kroot units, excluding shooting against units that are excluding monsters and vehicles. You can make them -2 to move, advance, and charge. So it can diminish their speed going into you, which is always a good tool to have. But it's 2 CP, so you have to really plan for this, and it's a situational stratagem. And then finally, Counterfire Defense Systems, 2 CP. This did come up quite a bit, actually, especially on the Enforcer Fire Knife team. So 1 Tau Empire unit, and you could even do it on broadsides as well. So effectively, it's just 2 CP, you can -1 damage. So there's a lot of, obviously, heavy bolters out there, and there's a lot of plasmas out there, and stuff just to kill transports and kill these things that they need to kill. So being able to do -1 damage can really offset their efficiencies, and I was using it, obviously, on my Crisis Suits. I was even using it on Devilfishes, just to kind of force them to either realise that I could do the -1 damage and send an additional piece to tackle a Devilfish, or if they didn't factor that in, I just do -1 damage and suddenly their heavy hitter doesn't kill my Devilfish. So, in summary, the list had all of the primary denial, all of the speed, all of the tricks, it had good anti-tank, good horde clearing, it had indirect, and I was teching this list to go hunt for Space Marine builds and the Bridgehead Guard, because in my head, the Bridgehead Guard don't really like to deal with transports. They can absolutely descend upon you and deliver an unholy amount of firepower with their Scion bricks, but they don't like having to send them out to deal with transports, and then I've still got breaches, and if I end up going first, I can dominate the board. And I think generically outside of this, I was just thinking, well, if I'm going into something that I don't know, or that might be a little bit unknown to me or swingy, then at least I can play my game of just aggressive primary denial, score my secondary points, and keep that differential really close. So that is the rundown of my Mont'ka list, and I would really encourage you all to start either thinking about Mont'ka, using this list as a staple, because obviously it's going to evolve, but this is a teams tournament list. And there's lots of other variations of lists that we've been working on over in the subscription channel. And if you are keen to find out more, you can always click on the link below and come and see what we're about. Speaking of which, let's go into a little bit, before I do the promotional stuff around what's happening in the Discord, I want to just show a little bit more about our placings and our overall journey throughout this tournament. So the original Mind Goblins team here with Dom Maidlow, Eddie, Johnny, Lewis and Tom ended up taking the gold for the event, and their team composition was Bridgehead Guard, Leeds of Votan, Skitarii Hunter Court that Johnny's been ripping it up with consistently for months and months and months and months and months, in fact the entire season. Then we had Lewis with his Space Marines, and he was running the Liberator Assault group with Blood Angels, and then we had Orcs with the new tactical what's it called, the Tactical Brigade. Okay, so really strong comp. And then we had other Mind Goblins teams. Again, we all performed very well, and that's what I love about the Mind Goblins at the moment. We are a bunch of lads that are enjoying the game, love the game, display best sportsmanship, but also high quality competitive 40k, and that's exactly what you want in a team. So pairings. Now looking into this is probably going to take forever. BCP is not the best. So Mind Goblins, we ended up going into Mind Goblin team. We ended up pulling in the win, 61-39. So in this, as you can see, I ended up going into Adam Watson, which was Admech, Skitarii Hunter Cohort, and I ended up pulling in a 19-1. So in short, this matchup, I'm going to be doing the deep dives of all of my matchups within the Chassel tournament review, which I'm going to showcase you in this video. But in short, I was able to remove scoring and play my game of fast gun, good gun, and pressure the scoreboard, which is exactly what my list was planned to do. So we ended up pulling this round of 61-39, and my big win definitely did contribute to us pulling over the threshold for the win. Then we look into like the rest of them in terms of the next pairing. Do bear with me while it all loads. If it does take forever, I'll always just go onto my phone and show you and just talk about it. Come on, BCP. Okay, so Mind Goblins, we went against a team called Imperium. So we got a solid win of 73 versus their 27. As you can see, it was a clean sweep. Great opponents, don't get me wrong. but I think we just won on the pairings. And Jack Davis Fletcher, who is an absolute machine when it comes to matrix and the pairings, and we owe a lot of success to his pairing process. I ended up going into the Ironstorm Space Marines, and I ended up pulling a 14-6. Again, good scoring, good board presence, and with lethals and my damage dealers, I was able to keep the firing lanes honest and keep him boxed in. So a good win, 14-6 for my Mont'ka. And then, as I said, our pairings process for the rest of the matchups was spot on, a draw, and then 4 wins. Then we're going to go into round 3. Round 3, obviously at this point, we're 2-0. Usually the third round, you could potentially hit somebody big. And obviously it's all to play for. So we wanted to get through day 1 with 3-0, but it's no easy feat, especially in this particular teams tournament where you have massive teams. You've got people coming over from, we had Sacco coming over from France, you had Liam VSL, so it was a team of just like Team France and Team Belgium, you had Ignite, you had Team England. There's so many good teams that we could have been paired into, and including our own. So we went into Team Stonehammer. Now, Team Stonehammer had some fantastic players. We had Andy Kraskoron, who's been currently kicking ass on the scene, and to be quite frank, he's definitely one of the better players out there to watch out for, especially with his Necrons. So in this one, as you can see, our pairings process was quite tight. So we were, and it was on what was it? What mission was it we were playing? Let me just find out the mission. Sorry guys, 1 second. Round 3, it was... Taken Hold. Taken Hold, Search and Destroy, Hidden Supplies. There's 4 objectives in No Man's Land. So I ended up getting paired into Joshua. He was running Grey Knights with the Warpbane Task Force, and he chose the heavy board. And just something to note in terms of the team strength, which I forgot to mention, there is usually a heavy, light, and a couple of medium boards. So, so it's something to factor in, because that can also help you out with how you design your matrix and design your list. Should I say list and then matrix? Because if you're designing a list to go on the light board, sometimes you might not get it. So you've got to ask yourself, will it perform on a standard board as well? So it was a solid win, 19-1. I ended up going second, which was kind of good against Grey Knights because it stops them from doing their uppy-downy stuff. And I think, in short, I was able to bully the primary and score consistently. So that game ended up with a flat 100, and he got 52. So not enough to get the 20-0, but I got 19-1. So that was a solid win for the team. And as you can see, 61 points that we got overall. They got 39. So my big win here definitely contributed to pushing over the line here of like 56, I think we needed. So again, proving a valuable list and a valuable take for the team, having me on Mont'ka and being able to push that differential as much as I did. I didn't initially have it on my matrix as this big of a win, but with opportunities in the game, I was able to keep the scoreboard ticking and pressuring my opponent's scoring. Then we go into like round 4. And again, guys, I know I'm giving you a basic breakdown of this, but over in the Discord on the Chassel tier, I do provide a rundown of a tournament a month, and I go through every single game, giving you a breakdown of all my decisions, the scoring, the strats that I've been using and when, and my matchup review that I'm going into and how I kind of like tackle the game. So if you are looking to get the most out of me and my Tau brain, then join on the Chassel tier, link is in below, and you can get instant access to the tournament reviews. And I'm going to show you at the end of this video 2 of the things that I've got going for you as Chassel tiers. So then going into day 2, this is usually the killer round, and it was the killer round. A lot of top teams were paired into each other, and it's the make or break for whether or not you're going to make the top cut. So we went against Eldar Reroll. Again, this team is undefeated, so clearly have been pulling out absolute wins and are a team to definitely respect and fear at the same time. So in terms of our pairings, I ended up being paired into the new Demons, and that's the Cult of Excess. So this is one of the, I suppose, best performances of my Tau career in terms of breaking down what an opposing army does and then tackling it in such a surgical way, but not reinventing the wheel. And I think Mont'ka allowed me to do this, and rather than being put under pressure, I was able to put my opponent under extreme pressure. And I think this is where Mont'ka came out in its own, came into its own, should I say, because when thinking back after the game, I couldn't have done it with Kion. Retcad, I could have replicated it a little bit, same with Auxiliary, but Mont'ka just allowed me just to get the game done. And I'm going to be doing a massive piece on this this Friday for all subscribers from Pathfinder, Chasspray, and Chassel, because I do a demonstration day, and I will demonstrate a particular game or a particular scenario to really help people understand the why I do things and what has helped me achieve success within a particular scenario and what to look out for going forward, and to help educate other players to do the same. So I ended up pulling an impressive 20-0 here, which was definitely, as you can see by the score, allowed our team to pull through and win overall. The pairings, we had small wins, small losses, draws, and then a tough matchup. So a draw, a small win, a small loss, and then Christopher Langdon and me pulled out the big wins, which definitely tilted. And sometimes in teams, it's not about hero mode. It's actually quite the opposite. If an individual is going to lose a matchup, then it's absolutely fine. Lose a matchup. There is no, egos. It's like, I'm going to lose this going into it, but I'm just going to score my points and get you some points as a team. So, Jack took on a matchup, a couple of swings in the game hurt him, but he still provided 7 points, because even if you lose, you're still got to stay on point and get your points for the team, because that's what it's about. It's about the total battle points to get the team across the line for the win. So with this was huge for me. 20-0 basically just guaranteed us the win, especially with Christopher also putting in 15, regardless of the 3 games. As long as they just played for those draws or the small losses or small wins, we're golden. So that one was an absolute belter of a game, and I'm super proud of how the Mont'ka performed and some of the choices that I made in that game. So if you want to know more, I'll be doing a demonstration this Friday. If you want to join a Pathfinder, it's the lowest tier that I have, and you can come and take part in this demonstration and learn what went on in that game. And obviously with the Chassel tier, you'll be getting the full deep dive of all of the games that I played at this International Teams Tournament. Then finally going on to round 5. Now, round 5 was both an honour and you might say unfortunate, but when we played against another Mind Boblins team, the atmosphere was so chill. We were having laughs, high fives, giggling, because no matter what the result of whichever Mind Goblin team won, we'd earned the right to be in sniffing distance of taking on the trophy. And it just so happens that the Mind Goblin best team wasn't the best team in this scenario. Mind Goblins won 59-41, but it was definitely a very close, hard-fought game as a round, as a team. So Tom ended up just rolling like a god and unfortunately took down our Christopher Langdon with his Custodes. I think, oh my god, it'd be really embarrassing if I, let's go back. And then it was Lewis losing to Jack, so his Space Marines losing to CSM Renegade Raiders, and then it was Guard versus Admech at 10-10, and then Admech versus Marines. My brain has gone 12-8. So, have a look. And then I went into Eddie with his Votan and managed to pull an 11-9. If I'd have got one more point, it'd have been a 12-8. But Tau versus Votan is a very honest 40k game. We were playing on Scorched Earth, which is naturally quite a drawish mission. So I think they had the stronger lists, in short. And we still gave it a close game. But I think they pipped us on the lists. And then they ended up going through to the top cut, and if you look at the placings, ended up beating Vanguard Tactics in the final. So 55 versus 45. You had Votan versus Gene Stealer Cult at 10-10. You had Marine on Marine, where Lewis pipping Ben Jones for 13-7. Stephen Box 18-2'd our Orc player, Tom Green. And then Michael Costello with his Astra Militarum lost against Johnny Simmons with his Admech. And then Aiden lost with his Death Guard versus Don Maidlow and his Astra Militarum Bridgehead. So honestly, this was an amazing event. And if you are wanting to play in teams events, I would definitely recommend going to the UKTC team ones. I think the next one is in May. They do sell out very quickly, so you'd have to get on it. But generally speaking, teams tournaments are amazing. Super proud of being part of Mind Goblins. We've finally taken home the gold, and I think going forward we're going to be one hell of a team to face. And you guys out there better watch out. So, very quickly, let's show you some of the stuff that I've got going on behind the scenes. So, give me a second while I just flip some screens. So, I've been speaking about the tournament reviews. Now, what I wanted to do was every month for my chasseurs, and that's obviously the tier, the highest tier that I offer, I wanted to be able to give them insight of the games that I'm playing as if you were there with me and watching every single move that I make and learning from me. And what I've done is, if you can have a look on the screen here, every single matchup that I've played since the Coventry one, I've uploaded every round. So Coventry was an 8-round event. I've uploaded every round using TTS, and it's a video using TTS, and I run down every play, the deployment, the whole lot. You get absolutely everything. And I've done that for every single tournament since Coventry. So you've got Coventry 8-round. I've even done the Warhammer World Championships, which was held in Atlanta, and that was using my Retaliation. And then I've got the UKTC Leicester Super Major, and that was on the 30th of November to the 1st of December, using my Kion list that I designed. And then you've got the Las Vegas Open from the January the 16th to the 19th, and I've uploaded every single round on there for you to go through a deep dive and learn from myself and be able to put all of those teachings into practice. And like I said, I had one hell of a season last year. Ended up 6th overall in the ITC. I was in contention for top place, but LVO just didn't connect for me, which happens. And then obviously I finished on the top tower in the world once again. So you're learning from the best. And I want to be able to hand over all of that knowledge and expertise to you to make you a better general and give you the confidence in your gameplay going forward. Now, the other thing that I'm working on as well is on top of doing video reviews that are available to you, I also do physical write-ups. And over in the Discord, I've got a faction-focused matchup review, and it's labeled with every detachment, every army, as you can see with the pictures. So every time I do a game at a tournament, I will do a physical write-up. And so if I kind of showed you like Necrons, for example. I have got the Las Vegas Open 2025 tournament review, linked tournament pack, my list, the Necron list that I played against, what terrain we were playing on, the WTC, because obviously LVO this year had 3 forms of terrain, WTC, GW, and then the Frontline Gaming one. And I've given you a breakdown of everything from who went first, what I put in reserve, same with the Necron player, the game plan, pictures, the scoreboard screenshot, the whole lot. And I'm going to be doing that for every single faction that I encounter going forward at every tournament. So you get the writings from within my brain available to you to be able to learn, adapt, and apply to your own games. On top of the tournament reviews as well, means you have a written form and you also have a video to watch and digest in your own time. The videos that I do over in the Discord are all recorded, and a lot of my content, remember, is live and engaging. And what I mean by that is when you join, let's say, a live call, respective to your subscription tier, whether it be Pathfinder for the demonstration day that's happening on Friday, Shaspray, where we do list building calls every 2 weeks, and then the Chassels, we do the better the meta, and we're going to be doing tournament talks. You get access to a live call that you can join, interact with me and the community, ask you questions, get the information that you want live with me, rather than just having to go to a pre-recorded video. Yes, I do pre-recorded videos, and I've got lots of other like folders with like basic teachings and things like that, but I really pride myself in the fact that I'm offering you a chance to come and interact with me directly. So there's so much value here, and this month and the next following month I'm going to be evolving all of the services that I'm doing, and I'd love for you to come and check out what it's all about and see if it's right for you. I can guarantee you, if you look at the reviews that customers have left of the Puretide program, they are all 5 stars. And not because I've said, please give me 5 stars, because they've found value in exactly what they wanted. It's direct. It's exactly what you want. You want to know about Tau, I'm the guy to speak to. Our Discord is popping. It's one of the most beautifulest designed Discords because I've got a team around me, and a special mention to Ryan Black Goodbye, who's helped me so much in making sure that this Discord is one of the best Discords and communities to be a part of. So, as much as I've been promoting all the paid services, if you just want to come and see and be a part of a like-minded community that's both positive and loves to talk about Tau and the game that we love, come and join. The link is in the description below, whether it's the Chasswee, Pathfinder, Chassway, Chassel, doesn't matter. You can always be part of this Discord, regardless of, paying the subscriptions or not. But if you want to elevate your gameplay and go to the next level, you know what to do. Click on the link below, because this stuff that I'm showing you now is only going to get better. And I cannot wait to see it grow and grow, and I love doing this kind of stuff for my community. Anyway, so enough of the promotion. Thank you so much. We've just been going just short of an hour now. Hopefully you found loads of information within this video to help you, but in closing, I would definitely recommend you to start thinking about being aggressive, because aggressive gameplay doesn't always have to be guns, guns, guns. It's all about board presence, positioning, trading, so resource management. And Tau can do this very well, and I think we've fallen into a little bit of a pattern or behavior pattern in the past with Kion and playing the slow trading game. I just think the meta's faster, more aggressive, and has got more tools to block you in or make you not play your game. So play your game, and Mont'ka is absolutely giving you the opportunity to do so. And I will also provide my Mont'ka teams list in the description below in a paste bin for you to look at and to use as a staple. But anyway, thank you so much for your time, your energy, and your support. Please help me out with the YouTube algorithm. Click on subscribe if you don't already subscribe to the YouTube Puretide program channel, and then comment and like for the YouTube algorithm. It'd be much appreciated. So thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your days, evenings, and weeks, and I'll be doing lots more content over the next month, so stay tuned for more. Thank you very much, guys. Take care.